basic information about lithomancy, which is using rocks as divination tools. And it's an exciting field, something a little bit different for you to try. And of course, as we know, the essence of our guidance, the essence of spirit comes through in many, many forms. And this is just one gift that's given to us for our utilization. So hopefully we can build up our power and knowledge and even maybe apply some of this in our own lives and also to help in the lives of others. So just wanted to welcome everyone here tonight. I know some folks are still logging in, but we'll just go ahead and get started. And I would love to just hear a little bit about each and every one of you. So if you would go ahead and look at the chat box, go ahead and type in at the chat box just your name, maybe where you're hailing from. I am up here in the great granite state of New Hampshire and just loving it, being up here in the enchanted forest. And I've been here for about 3 years, initially from New York, and it's quite a difference being out here in the sacred forest for sure. So it's helped me in my meditative process and also to feel much more connected to nature. And being that I am here in the granite state, I decided, well, what a great topic to select by looking at how we can study rocks to gather information from a spiritual perspective. So just seeing who's here, I see Denny near Chicago, love going to the Windy City, Debbie in South Florida, and Sarah, Wheatley, Canada. All right, we're reaching even other lands. That's wonderful, wonderful work. People from Philly with rock stability, love it, love it, love it. And we're going to do some practice. Has anyone brought a rock with you tonight? Anyone rocking and rolling with us tonight? If you do have a rock, bring it out because we're going to use them. Oh, look, San Francisco Bay, Atlanta, fantastic. I've been to all those cities. Just love it. So if you do have a rock, have one ready to go. If not, take a moment now to grab one if you can, if you don't have to run out in the yard. But I have some rock photos that you can practice with. So if you didn't bring a rock with you, no problem. You can certainly use some of mine. And I see also Greg from Amherst, Mass. Very, very nice. So what is the first thing that comes to mind for you when you think about rocks, right? Like when I think rock and roll, rock concert, fun, all of these good things. But when you think about rocks as in stones, what comes to mind? And I see that Catherine was asking about using a crystal. Well, crystals certainly are rocks as well. And you can use a crystal, but a good old-fashioned regular rock from the garden, the park, wherever you are, works nicely. The fact that it is so irregular makes it ideal for doing our lithomantic rock readings. So crystals are okay, never a problem. I mean, people have read crystal balls for years, right? So magic, Sarah's talking about magic, which is wonderful. So that's exactly where we're going tonight, thinking about magic. Any other thoughts about rocks? Has anyone ever used rocks for divination before? So just feel free to share on the chat and make it a little bit more interactive and keep us all rocking and rolling this evening. So I've gone down into some of the caverns to see the rocks deep buried under the earth. And it's just fabulous. Back in the old days, when they had the dry times in the roaring 20s and then Prohibition, people went down and built bars and speakeasies among the rocks underneath the earth. And this is one of those places I visited where there's huge stalagmites and stalactites, rock formations that are in caves hidden under the earth. And if you ever have a chance to go in and meditate in some of those caves, it's absolutely magical. And it just is so grounding and so centering because there's nothing more grounding than being underground and still alive. Because of course, 6 foot over is better than 6 foot under any day of the week, right? But it's just wonderful, wonderful to do. So I'm seeing Presenter's website is under construction. Yes, it is. I'm updating my site and I'll have that ready for you in a couple days. So if you need to contact me, I'm going to go ahead and put my number up here if you had any questions about anything we're covering, and it's a toll-free call. So go ahead and record that. And if you like, also, if you had questions or comments about anything we're covering, then you could certainly reach me, and I'll give you my email as well. It's Theresa Nanda, Theresa, A-N-D-A, at protonmail.com. Just typing that in for you, making sure I don't have typos. So that's my contact information. If you have questions until the website pops up, I'm happy to help you at any time. And I love to hear from everybody. I give courses both in health education as well as in my interfaith ministry. And this is just one of those that I find is so helpful, giving people a meditative perspective on how to get information, how to learn and instill knowledge from extraordinary reality, from your superconscious mind, or from the guidance of spirit. And that's where we're really going to be looking this evening. So moving on, Land of Rocks. This is where I came up with my topic for tonight. You're looking at a view from up on Mount Sunapee, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous lake here called Lake Solitude. And if you'd like to really connect with the rocks and be grounded and yet have a gorgeous view, check out Mount Sunapee. Sitting right atop that beautiful granite, you have a perspective that is just absolutely incredible. So I welcome you to come visit us in the Granite State. So we're going to learn how to perceive using different kinds of tools, and tonight just happens to be the stones. So some people read tea leaves, some people read palms, cards. There are so many tools to help us to gain access to extraordinary reality using our extrasensory perception. So we're keeping this really down to earth because it is down to earth. These practices have been used for centuries by indigenous cultures around the world, right up to the modern day. And we're going to sharpen our skills tonight and do a little practice and see what we come up with. So a couple little things to think about. There'll always be rocks in the road ahead of us. There'll be stumbling blocks. There'll be stepping stones. It all depends on how you use them. That's from Friedrich Nietzsche. Vision connects you. We're going to be using our inner vision to get a sense of what information can we gather from the other side of reality, the unseen aspect of reality. So vision connects you, but it also separates you. In my work and in my life, I feel a desire to merge, not in terms of losing my own identity, but there's a feeling that life is interconnected. And there's life in stones and rocks and trees and dirt, like there is in us. And that's from Bill Viola. So some nice wisdom that we'll share from some great thinkers as we go through the evening. We're all infused with energy. Here's another example of some beautiful rocks in the beautiful Granite State. Sometimes they split, and sometimes we feel split. And we're bouncing back and forth trying to make a decision. Should I go? Should I stay? Yes, no, take this job, leave that job, marry this person, divorce this person, have a child, not have a child. So many decisions. So we could be split. And using the energy of the rocks as a meditative source can help us to gather information and make better decisions. Remember, we're just accessing universal energy, and that's what connects all things. Quantum physicists have known this for some years, that the actual universe is really a hologram. And quantum physics explains it that time and space are a continuum. We think of time as being minute to minute, moment to moment. But look at how time changes when things change in your life. You're in the middle of an accident, oh boy, time is flying, isn't it? How about when you're sitting in that really boring class that you wish you missed? Time is going very slowly. So time is really a human construct, and it has limitations. Remember, from a quantum physics world, everything is here happening simultaneously right now. And everything that we do and think is affecting everything else. Simply the process of observing affects how things work. So we're going to see, how can we observe and use these rocks to understand aspects of ourselves, to gain information from the spiritual side of life. And much of this information came through from our good old buddy, Al Einstein. He says there's no logical way to the discovery of elemental laws. What does everybody talk about today? Oh, it's science. Well, I have a doctorate degree, so I have done research, I've published in peer-reviewed journals, I know about these things from a scientific perspective, but science is not exact. There are so many different aspects of science and research. And here's from one of the leading thinkers of our time, right? Al says it's only the way of intuition, which is helped by a feeling for the order lying behind the appearance. So what does this look like? How does this appear? Looks like a rock to me, kind of pink and gray, but how do you know? Do you know what's inside of it? What do you think? There could be a diamond in there. Maybe it's a geode. Should I crack it open? Okay, a geologist would be able to tell us much more about what's inside that rock. So don't go just based on appearances. We're going to look beyond the appearances, look into the unseen realm. What messages can we gather from the rocks? Right? That we're all connected. Your intention can affect the seen and unseen world. And we know this, that's called the observer effect in physics. So would you like to engage your own intentions now to view that unseen world? This is just another way to do it. Here's a beautiful granite being split by the water. So those secrets hidden in nature. Anthropologists over the years have done quite a bit of research. Many of them have gone to live with indigenous cultures around the world, Aboriginals, Mayan cultures, people deep, deep in the different countries of the world, deep into the African continent, deep into Australia. And they work with some of these ancient cultures, people like Michael Harner or Hank Wesselman. And they've come back and described how people use their powers of sight to be able to detect what is unseen, to gather information for knowledge and power. And tonight we're going to use the rocks to do that. One of the leading cultures here on our own continent in the Americas, Lakota Sioux, used vision of gazing at the stones to gather guidance. And they had whole protocols for doing these things. Tonight, we're getting a little abbreviated version of how to do this on our own, something that we could use, the quick and easy, because isn't everything quick and easy and disposable today? Well, these aren't too disposable. They'll be around, but that information is priceless. So this rock reading, lithomancy, is an ancient practice and is just using another tool. So we're going to see, can we directly engage with the helping spirits, helping compassionate spirits who are on that side of extraordinary reality? Can we call in their guidance to help us to learn and to grow? So we're going to try this for ourselves. So I'd just like to see if anybody new came along, feel free to join us on the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're at, why you're interested in rocks anyhow. So we're going to take a few easy steps to do this. So you want to create, when you're working into your rock readings or stone readings, you want to create a sacred space. What does that mean? Can anyone share with us what you think a sacred space would be, or how you might create a sacred space for your own practices? Go ahead and share that with us on the chat. So no just sitting back, tap away, share. I like to create a sacred space by perhaps burning some incense, sometimes known as smudging. Yes, great. So I see smudging for some. And if some people don't like the smoke, sometimes I'll just use maybe some essential oils. I know a lot of people are allergic to things, so you want to be careful about that. But it's nice to create a sacred space. It could just be about approaching it as being mindful. Being mindful means we're here in the moment. We're paying attention to what's happening right here, right now. Not thinking about, oh, did I bring the dog in? Well, that would be nice if I did, because otherwise she'll be out chasing the chickens, right? Or what about, did I give the right breakfast to somebody? Oh, maybe I forgot to make that phone call. So that internal chatter of our monkey mind just goes on and on, pop, 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 pop. Let that pass. Just ignore it. So it's not that we can always turn off our mind, because our cognition is continuous. We're always thinking. But the idea is, be here now. I'm sure you've heard that so many times. It's like a cliche, but it's true. Focus on the here and now. So when we're working with our stones, we're going to take a singular focus of gazing at the stone. And I see Sarah mentioned that she uses some sacred items. Okay, others are using sacred space being created by having plants and flowers around, creating a peaceful space, maybe lighting a candle. So if you have any of those things and you'd like to engage with that, create a little sacred space right now where you are. And of course, one of the essences of creating that sacred space is exactly what Debbie said, intention. How we focus. What are the words we use? What position do we assume? How do we speak? How do we feel? So setting that intention to create a sacred space of peacefulness, quietude, to be able to engage in quieting the mind and allowing our intuitive senses to come to the forefront. So it's helpful when you first think about doing your rock journey, say after this, if you're going out to collect your rock, So you want to go make a rock friend out there. Go out in nature and be in a receptive mode. So rather than just going out and saying, I'm going to find me a rock and let me just go out there, maybe I'll do a little jog and find a rock. That's all good, but start that peaceful, centered intention right from the moment you step out. And picture, okay, nature's going to find just the right rock for you to discover. Present that for you, because there's no right or wrong ones. You can use any rock that you find. I find personally, it's a little bit easier if the rock has some interesting shapes and colors. It gives you a little bit more to go with, but you don't have to use that. You could use a crystal, you could use a diamond, you could use anything to do a reading, but you want to be in a receptive mode and call in your guidance, call in your helping spirits to help you select a stone. Now, it's most helpful and traditional to select a stone with at least 4 faces. So if I look like here's front of the rock, say, or the back of the rock, or was at the back and that's the front. It doesn't matter. Isn't that great? There's no right or wrong, but it has different sides. So it has different features on each side because there's stuff that you want to focus on, and those features will give you some information. And you want the rock to be about the size of your fist or larger. This way you have a nice area to look at and it's not too big. I was looking at some huge boulders out on my bike ride today, so I think those will be a little bit too much for us. But if you don't have a stone handy, you can go ahead and try one of ours. And as you can see, I have a couple of rocks here that I've taken some photos of today on my little hike. And these are different rocks. They're all granite in this case. But when you take a look at the rock, you see there's different conformations. This one almost on the left looks almost like a yin yang symbol. I think of that, having that little curve, that little S in it, to kind of think of, oh, positive and negative, male, female, sun, moon. It gives you that nice little sense of, two-sided duality, very typical of our earthiness. And the one on the other side, that's a little bit more uniform, but it has some other interesting shapes to it. So picking a rock that has some very interesting shapes is helpful because it gives you a focus. It's something good to focus on. So the key to your selection is being in that centered, reverent state of mind. And when you select your stone, show some appreciation. Oh, thank you, universe, for sending me just the perfect stone for me. And call in that guidance. So remember, the oldest inhabitants on our planet are the stones. You're talking about, they go back about 400 billion years, which is about the oldest things on Earth. So allow these to act as your allies, right? And call in those angels or helping spirits to help you. So a couple of other thoughts. This one from Carl Sandburg. It's necessary for a man to go away by himself, or a woman, right, to sit on a rock and ask, who am I? Where have I been? Where am I going? So these are some questions that are perfect to pose when you're doing your rock reading. So answering like loaded questions or negative questions is not recommended, because your brain, your subconscious, really only understands things in the positive. So just say, well, shouldn't I go to that meeting tonight? No. What would it be like if I go to that meeting tonight? That would be a different way to word the question. So things like, where am I going? What would it be like if? How do I go about such and such an activity? So I'm going to invite you to take a journey with me. Now, I'm a shamanic practitioner and an interfaith minister, and my name is Theresa, as you know. My nickname is Theresa Nanda, and I do have a doctorate in divinity, and I'm also very interested in sharing the aspects, some basic core aspects of shamanic journeying with you. And it's essentially a form of mindful meditation with an intention. And journeying has been used for millennia by every culture around the world in some form or another. This kind of journey is going to be a guided meditation for you to give you a focus on how you can use stones as a tool to gain knowledge and information from your intuitive side. And traditionally, when shamans do journeying, we typically go down into an image of a tunnel. So I might picture a hole in a tree when I take my journey. And I'm going to go into a dream-like sense, like when you're napping and you go into a dream world. Journeying and traveling in the spirit world is very much like the dream. It's even very similar in the brain waves. And the journeying state, the meditative state of journeying, a focused meditation with an intention, with a goal, that's a journey. And that's really all about keeping in that sacred space. You could stay focused on exactly what you're doing with an intention. So journeying is a little different than mindfulness meditation because we go into our journey with a question. How can I do this? Or what would it be like if that? Or show me the direction to take and allow it. So imagine you're going through a tunnel is often one way to do it, like into a cave. And that's where this picture of one of the caves that I've been in comes up. Now, to enter a meditative state, one of the easiest ways to do that is to play some sound. So some of your favorite meditation music, or I like to use a drum. So drum can be very helpful. And the rhythmic drumming, monotonous drumming, on and on like so. Monotonous drumming can actually alter your brain waves and put you in a meditative state, which allows you to be more receptive to your intuitive side, that super conscious, extraordinary reality. So you can use a rhythmic drumming for that. And I'd like to ask you right now, pose a specific question. Choose a question. Get a piece of paper, write it down, or type it on your computer, or if you really want to have more fun, share it with us in the chat. So nothing too personal if you're going to put it in the chat, but pose a specific question. Hold that question firmly in your mind. And it's important for it to be a positively oriented question. Not like, well, if I don't go to that show with her, what will happen? Okay, no, if I do go to the show, what will happen? So it's a little different. Don't use no or don't or anything along those lines. So keep that question firmly in your mind. It's the more simple, the better. And you want to be unattached to the answer. See, some of us are so busy thinking, well, gee, should I really buy that raffle ticket because I'd love to win the grand prize? Well, that's great, but there's a judgment, there's an outcome that you're selecting. You want to be non-judgmental, non-critical, and detached. So you're like a detached observer, not expecting any outcome, but being curious and open. Oh, let me listen in for this. Let me watch, let me view, but from the inside, not from my expectations or desires, but to be open. Like we used to say, the hollow bone in shamanic practice. I'm just hollow and I'm going to be filled up with whatever information those helping spirits or my intuitive side, my superconscious shares with me. So in your question, you want it to be a who, what, when, where, or why. Those are really, really good questions. So did everyone get a question to write down? Let's just see in the chat. You don't have to share your question, but at least give me a yes and no that you have a question, because we're about to do some of these readings. So you want to be open-minded, okay? Allow your imagination to take free reign. And that's really what it's about. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Another aspect of Mr. Einstein sharing that with us. So when you select your stone, you're going to hold your stone. Make sure you're in a comfortable position. So you might want your hands on a table and the stone on the table in front of you, or maybe the stone in your lap. And you're going to ask from guidance from your higher power, your superconscious self, your angels or guides, helping spirits, whatever you like to call those helpers that are out there that we call on. And I see, thank you for the yeses. I see people are getting ready here. You're going to gaze at one surface. So choose a surface of the rock. It doesn't matter which side you choose first. You're going to choose a surface and you're just going to look at that surface on one side from your meditative state, open-minded, non-judgmental, just curious like a child, a curious state. What do the contours in the rocks feel like to you? I wonder if there's any symbolism that you pick up on when it comes to the rock, right? So I'll put up some pictures of rocks as well. So look at the contours and you're going to repeat your question for each side. Now we'll do one side here for now because otherwise we'll be here for hours and I know we've scheduled about an hour. So do one side of the rock, repeat your question, but when you're doing it on your own later, do each side of the rock and ask that question. Turn, question, wait, and it may be several minutes of gazing for your mind to cool down and your intuitive sense to pick up. You may sense symbols. You may get a sense of color. You may actually hear words in the back of your mind. There may be a visual in your mind's eye, but allow yourself to keep gazing just one pointedly at the rock with that question firmly in your mind, firmly in your mind. So geologists have a saying, rocks remember. So I'm going to put this rock up for you here, and I do have more coming up as well. So if you're looking for a rock face, we'll play with this one here. And if you don't have a rock on your own, go ahead and spend a few moments just gazing at that rock face with your question in mind. And just keep looking at that. I'll give you a few quiet moments here. So we're just gazing at our rock. Any impressions that you get, observe. Maybe visual, maybe auditory, maybe a feeling, may even be a sense of taste or a scent. All has meaning. Take one more minute of meditation, gazing at your stone. And coming back, take some nice deep breaths in And take a moment to jot down your impressions. Feel free to share those impressions on the chat if you like. That would make it so much more interesting for us to share. Or just jot down on a piece of paper. Maybe there is a symbol you perceived. Maybe there's an image and you could just make a little scribble of that image. If you're a much better artist than I am, you could draw a picture. And don't be fussy. Just go right to it. No judgment. Just put it all down there. What do you see? What did you hear? Maybe there was a flavor or a scent. Maybe there was just a feeling. Or were there words or sounds for you? What was it like? Take a few moments to just jot down your perceptions. So, like to see, what have we got? So I'd like to just see, we have Margarita said, what instrument would enhance her life? Very, very fascinating question. Be interested to see what the outcome was. Joanne was talking about rest, something fun is coming. Ah, very nice, very nice. Love to know more about what's fun there as well. Sarah's seeing an image of a hand, turtle, flower of life. Oh, beautiful, with 3 petals and a teardrop. Dog, a heart with Lisa. Sarah's got career direction and healing was my question. Wonderful. And how did those responses or perceptions make you feel? How did that make you feel? Feel free to share on the chat and I'll bring that around again. So to complete the ceremony, is because we call this a ceremony or a ritual. Some people call it a rite, and it's just a practice. Return to that awake state of mind by taking some nice deep breaths again. Reflect, try to interpret what it was and take that piece of paper. You might want to look at it when you wake up in the morning because your subconscious mind, your superconscious is busy all night, and let that be the last thing you see is what you jotted down on that piece of paper. And there'd be something very, very interesting when you wake up. You'll get more impressions. So just be aware of that. Many more impressions could come up. And it's something that gives you even more information because our conscious mind is quiet when we're sleeping, of course, and there's a lot better chance for your intuitive self to come forward and share some very important guidance for you. So I see very nice here. Some people have shared. I'm just going to roll down the chat there. Folks are feeling more comforted and calm. Very nice. This is a nice meditative aspect of this. Tim mentioned you got a strong smell for a moment and a small amount of energy. Nice, a little perception of a boost of energy as well. Feeling connected. And that's feeling grounded. Stones, of course, they're the essence of the earth. They're the essence of grounding. So if you're flitting about in your day and you're feeling maybe a little stressy or harried, try just holding your stone. Have a favorite stone. This is one of my favorite stones. Try just holding that in your hands and just focusing, because you don't have to just gaze at the stone visually. You can just hold the stone. Now that's a different thing. The traditional rock readings are engaging the visual field. But what if someone doesn't have good vision? Or perhaps someone doesn't have the gift of sight? You can feel the stone and do the same thing. And that's interesting because that is not how I was taught, but that guidance just came through for me while we are speaking here. So I'm excited that I'm getting some guidance just doing this work here. That holding the stone with 2 hands, so important. And then just spend several minutes in that quietude. And those same perceptions can come through. It's fun to look at the rocks, but you don't need to see. You can feel. So especially if someone does not have good gift of vision, feel the stone, all the conformations of the stone, the temperature, the texture, all the little nooks and crannies. All of this can provide information. So Nancy mentioned she's asking about publishing a book and having some interesting emotion with that. Thank you, Nancy. Laura, shifting gaze to another area in the stone shifted the vision. Yeah, so the different facets of the stone indeed are like portals to another world. So looking at different areas, even like one of the reasons this is one of my favorite rocks, because there's so many different crevices, indentations, all the different messages. And I've used this at different times with different questions and always get some different information. But yet it's just a plain old rock, isn't it? Not really. So see, Terry's saying being sensed, heard, and felt the heart beating. Yes, I felt that heart beating as I was holding the stone. I could feel my pulse actually engaging the stone itself. And remember that stones are often crystalline in nature, even though they're not, this is not a crystal per se. There can be crystals in the stone. Crystals are basically stones that were heated to super hot temperatures, like 2000 degrees Celsius. Does anyone know the hottest rock on Earth that's actually been recorded? Anyone familiar with that? Where's my Canadian friends out there? I know someone out there was from Canada. Well, it's very interesting. The hottest rock on Earth that they recorded was subjected to 2,370 degrees Celsius, which is really, really, really hot. It happened to be a cubic zirconia, and it's up in an area called Mistachi Lake in Canada. So it's one of the hottest rocks geologists have recorded on the planet. So you talk about hot rocks, you got them up there in Canada. Good stuff. So let's go on to see what everyone else is sharing. So Laura said for a short while, she closed her eyes and held the stone and felt the energy flowing in the vibrations. Absolutely. When stones have crystals in them, or if you're using crystals, there's something called a piezoelectric effect, where the electrical system of your body can actually impart a vibration to the stone, and stones can also transduce energy if they're crystalline in nature. When electricity strikes a stone, it creates compression waves or ultrasound. We use that in medicine to help people to heal, but it works the other way as well. If you send energy into a crystal, the energy could come back out of the crystal. Back in the ancient times of Atlantis, Lemuria, crystals were used to store energy, to store information, very much like we use computer chips today, silicone chips. So just very, very interesting stuff that's happening again in our culture. So anything else? Nancy was talking about iron, hematite. Yes, hematite is magnetic, absolutely. So lots of interesting stuff. Make sure when you're through with your little ceremony to be grateful, express some gratitude to those beautiful guides that are helping us, and even the rock, because all of these things are imbued with energy. They're imbued with life of one kind or another. Maybe not life like we are, biological, but it's another form of life. So you want to be grateful, show some gratitude there. So make sure, journal your impressions, bring them with you to sleep tonight, pick it up in the morning. What's the first impression that you have when you wake up in the morning and you look again at whatever you wrote on that piece of paper, whether it's a symbol or something? If it's something that you felt, just write down what it was you felt. Come back and return for some more guidance. So here I have a little bird just returning to one of the rocks, getting some more information. And I often picture myself like that, just be like a little bird, just land on it, just listen, look, feel, smell, use all your senses. So stone wisdom. Thomas Carlyle says the block of granite, which was an obstacle in the pathway of the weak, became a stepping stone in the pathway of the strong. And we're going to use these as intuitive stepping stones, a gift from the earth, from our Mother Nature. So would love to ask if any of you would like to share your question with us. I know a couple of us did. Anyone else would like to share the question? And did you actually sense a response? Was there any sense of guidance or direction provided? And if so, come on and share that with us. We'd love to hear it. Love, love, love to hear it. Now I'm going to move ahead while you're typing away in there. And just remember that answers are gifted to us. We're playing with stones tonight, but I often do cards. I use cards for guidance, just to help focus my mind. Sometimes we use trees for guidance. It's one of those aspects on the shamanic path. I'll take a walk out into the forest and go into a meditative state or a journey and have a question. So remember, adding the question or an intention to that meditative state creates the journey. And I also invite my guardian angels, my helping spirits to always join me. So I know I'm never alone. I always have good company with me. And as I go walking into the forest, and here in New Hampshire, we're surrounded by beautiful pine trees, beeches, oaks, maples. It is just an absolutely glorious, enchanted forest to be in. And as I walk through the forest, I will just allow my gaze to kind of just shift out ahead of me. And I'll pick a tree and look to see the features on that tree. Study the bark as I have my question in my mind. Look at the features, just like I looked at the features on my rock. Was there some sense or symbolism that I could perceive? I could do that with a tree in the forest bathing. So we're using stones here because it's fun, but remember that there are so many different tools you could use. And I'd like to just share, another comment, if you guys don't mind me saying them out loud. Marguerite mentioned, I didn't get anything, but we'll keep trying. Well, welcome to the club. That is one of the things that has frustrated me the most for so many years. I have a very busy mind. I'm very cognitively inclined, and turning that brain off and allowing the intuitive sense to come through has been a job for many years, let me tell you. So I appreciate what Marguerite has shared, and thank you for being courageous and saying this, because sometimes I'll go into this and I'll be looking at a rock or a tree or just, asking my helping spirits, can I get a little guidance here? And I get so wrapped up in thinking, that cognitive aspect, what's happening, using words, as opposed to using the right brain too much in the left brain. The right brain is more that creative, intuitive side. So if you're not getting anything right away, welcome to the club. It doesn't always come, but when it does, it's a gift. And as we practice more, and as we show our appreciation for what we're perceiving and from where these gifts are coming, go into that center of gratitude in your heart. Go into that center of appreciation and love, because that is where the juice is. That is where the gifts are from. That is where the intuition is coming from. That is where the true answers are coming from, within your own heart. So if you don't have tools and you're looking for something to focus on, to access that guidance, access that higher power, go right here into your heart, right there. Follow the same process. Have an intention. Call in your higher guidance, your power, your angels, whatever it is that you call it, your superconscious mind. Focus there and just wait expectantly with a curiosity. And I'd like to emphasize, is if you have a busy mind like I do, I'm always busy working. I do quite a bit of teaching, speaking. I have a healthcare practice as well. And doing these things together keeps me busy. So it's not always easy to focus, but going back to that mindful state, and of course, using breathing is critical. Focus your breathing so you have gentle, deep breaths, and that will help your intuitive mind to come through for you, to allow that guidance to be appreciated. And then showing that appreciation for yourself and your abilities too is really, really helpful. You'll find too that it makes you more relaxed, less stressed, and a lot more effective in everyday life. So we're going to move on. Does anyone have questions? Any other questions or comments? Please post them. And thank you, Margarita, for the wonderful compliment that you're having some fun. Appreciate that. So what does a rock know anyhow? So Craig Lansborough said, our experiences are the building blocks of the future, hewn out of the granite of the present. So when I looked online, there's a lot of information out there about rocks. So can you share with us something that you learned, just a sentence, a phrase, a few words, something that you learned from what we just did? Was there something new? Was there something different that you could use in your approach to life? Is this something that you could share that might help others? That's where the real juice is, right? Connecting with others. So go ahead and post that in the chat. No snoozing out there. Remember, we've forgotten what rocks and plants still know. We have forgotten how to be still, to be ourselves, to be where life is, here and now. That's Eckhart Tolle. How many of you have read some of his work? Fabulous, fabulous work. So seeing some other comments here. Questions should be positive. Often I'm asking guidance around a negative topic. Fascinating question. Thank you, Sarah, for your comment. Positive and negatives are qualities that we assign to things. They're not inherently positive or negative, but it's our judgment. If you go to a group of people, like I went one day out with my cousins and we all said, okay, when we were little, we all grew up in a homemade ice cream pot. Imagine that, homemade ice cream every day. It was fabulous. And all of our daddies made homemade ice cream. So we all said, what's your favorite flavor? And I went through cousin after cousin, vanilla, vanilla, vanilla. And then another one cousin, chocolate. Okay, so who's right and wrong? It doesn't matter vanilla or chocolate. It's your own perspective. So if you're asking guidance about what you perceive as a negative topic, don't block the guidance by adding the negative. Take a curiosity aspect as a child would, being curious. That's the way you'll get more direct guidance. And if you put negatives on things, you tend to block some of the energy. So it's something where just allow it to be open, that allowing, which is really more the Buddhist philosophy, allowing and listening, looking, feeling, sensing. And you might get some interesting perspectives. So Gonzalo wants to know, can I give an example of a rock and what it has told me, or how my question was addressed? Yes, I was interested in figuring out if I was going to go into a certain position. And I had some different teaching positions that I engage in. And when looking at the rock, I was looking at this, and it wasn't this particular rock that I'm thinking of, but this was actually a couple of years ago, but it was very strong for me because everything was changing in the field of continuing education that I was working in. And I was seeing stones and bricks, looking like, well, should I focus more on healthcare practice or more on teaching? And that was my question. What would be, and I didn't use should actually, I'm thinking just now, but what would it be like to focus more on healthcare practice or more on teaching? What's more successful? And I looked and I looked and I looked, and I kept seeing things like I saw a floor that looked like it was made out of stone, like maybe slate or tile. And I looked, there was a building, and this is all coming from that same question. And it seemed that there was stones or bricks, like an institutional building. And when I put it all together, I realized that what I was looking at a school, and that's how it was perceived. So you don't always get a direct answer like, well, you should go into education. No, the direct answer is often a metaphor or a symbol. So seeing an institution that looked like an educational institution as opposed to something that looked like, a hospital or an office or a healthcare facility. And I just got a sense of that by using this same aspect of divination. So hopefully that helps answer your question a little bit. So Nancy was saying, learn this lesson. It's time to take action or settle for Groundhog Day again. Wonderful, wonderful. Did you see a groundhog? It's interesting, when I was just chatting with you before and looking at the stone, I was seeing an animal in the stone, but it looked like it was several different animals. I was seeing like a head over on this side, some paws, back legs over here. Like it was a curled up sleeping animal telling me I should get a little bit more rest. I thought that was interesting. I think sometimes we project things as well, right? So Laura learned there are many answers. As I moved my gaze on the stone, I saw different visions and then received word answers. Look at things, stones, in different ways. And that's the key, all different ways. To answer Gonzalo, I asked, what does my future year or two look like? My first vision was like looking through a window pane, saw myself at home, but not specifically visually. Same as our home, but knowing it was home. Lots more, but slow to write. Yes, and that's the thing. Sometimes when I do this type of divination, I just draw pictures because the words, it just says too much. So, oh, you didn't see a groundhog after all. So interesting, interesting. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you, thank you. So we're going to move on now. Ready for more? We're going to do another. Pose a new question. So go ahead right now, get another piece of paper, get a little bit more practice, pose a new question. We're going to enter the journey a different way this time. I am going to drum for you. So monotonous drumming. I'll be happy to share with you that I have no musical talent whatsoever, but I enjoy music, but I do know how to do monotonous drumming using my Revo drums. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. So as I drum and rattle, that helps a meditative state. Select a different face of your rock or use one of ours. You're going to open your subconscious mind to perceive some guidance and take another journey with me. So here's some stones in case you don't have any. These are some actually really big boulders on my property. So I just wanted to share those with you. These are not the size of a fist. These are probably 3 to 5 foot in size. They're just enormous granite boulders everywhere. But I thought they were so interesting and I wanted to share them with you. So here we go. And just before we jump in, Nancy said she saw into the future and how she'd feel after the book produced income. Awesome. And everything's connected, including rocks. Thank you, Debbie, for that comment. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of drumming and sound chiming for you. So stay with me for the last few minutes. We get another question, another answer, another bonus. Breathing in. Breathing in and out slowly. Holding your question in your mind. We'll take about 3 minutes for this journey. Hold your question in your mind. Gazing at your stone. Come on back. Take a deep breath in. Stretch out a little bit, make a note. What did you learn, feel, perceive, see, hear? Make a note. Now, I happened to gaze at this big boulder with a crack in it at the top, and I decided not to ask any questions, which is another perspective. Be open to whatever spirit wants to share with you. And I discovered I was focusing on the crack, saying, oh, sometimes things are broken. And then I looked beneath and I said, don't look just at the surface. Sometimes things look broken on the surface. Sometimes we look at our world today and say, wow, things are broken on the surface. But then you go underneath, look underneath. And that's what the unseen world is here for us. The world of spirit, the world of love and light. And that's here to support us, to be solid, to be our foundation, even when things look broken on the surface. Something to think about. What would it be like to just allow the guidance to come through even without posing a question? That was some direct guidance I received right here. Now you should have a handout with this as well from thanks to the American Society of Dowsers. And if you didn't have rocks available, you can use some of my stones here. I've given you some extra pictures so you could try those for later. And they have such interesting markings. I'm sure there'll be plenty of information coming through that those will guide you to. So remember to thank the helping spirits from the stones, come back in gratitude, record your impressions, and share. It's so great and validating to share what you've come across. And Bootsy Collins said, the secret to walking on water is knowing where the rocks are. Allow the rocks to support you. So learn the ancient ways. If you're looking to learn more about shamanic journeying, my website, which is being rebuilt this week, my metaphysicaltherapist.com, will be available to you. Until then, I do invite you to the American Society of Dowsers convention. As you may know, of course, it's coming shortly in June. I'm going to be doing a course on shamanic journeying introduction there, which is a 3-hour workshop. So join me if you want to have some fun, bring some friends. You're going to have a great time learning some of the core aspects of shamanism so that you could be empowered even more in your life and gain greater knowledge for healing and for helping others. And it's always great to connect. That'll be a 3-hour workshop. I'm also doing a 1-hour talk on energetic intelligence. And that's really looking at what is the physics of intelligence from a spiritual perspective, from a superconscious perspective, and how can you appreciate the energy around your body? Can you sense it? Can you perceive it? Can you feel it? Can you move it? Can you do that engaging with others? So that's going to be very also interactive. Do join me at the convention. I think, let's see, June 9th at 1:30 is the first one with the journeying for 3 hours. And June 11th, Saturday at 1:30 will be for the energetic intelligence. So feel free to check it out. And a little word from Steven Tyler, since I'm right in the neighborhood where he has one of his homes. I have to get inspired by something that touches my soul or rocks my soul. So hopefully these rocks rocked your soul a little bit tonight. And may you be able to use some of this guidance to not only help yourself, but to help boost the love and light that surrounds our world. It all comes from within us. So I thank you for sharing this with us. If you have additional comments or questions, I invite you to pose those now. And do stay in touch with me. Come on up and visit at the Dowsers Convention. Or if you're looking to learn more about any of this work, I am Theresa Schmidt. I'm a doctor of divinity. I'm also a doctor of physical therapy and a massage therapist, and I have multiple aspects of both allied health and spiritual healing practices. Feel free to contact me if you have questions, comments, or would like to connect, and I would be absolutely delighted to work with you. So just a few more comments here. Gonzalo says his question was, what will I carve out of a wood block? I saw clearly 2 guys with a guitar in the top right of your picture of the right, and saw that a layer on top lays on the bottom layer. I thought of a nude couple laying down. Oh, that's some pretty juicy stuff right there. Some interesting artwork coming your way. Love it. Oh, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, guys. Rock on. Yes, Nancy, we're definitely rocking on. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Tim Schmidt, I guess, who knows, maybe you're a distant cousin. Thank you for joining. Hopefully, I'll see you all again in the future, and many, many bright blessings to all of you. I think I have one more slide there. Do I? Yes. In matters of principle, Thomas Jefferson said, stand like a rock. So rock on, guys. I look forward to seeing many of you at the convention. May bright blessings be yours. Thank you. Thanks to our moderator as well. Thank you, Demi. You've been great.
Thank you, Theresa. Awesome presentation.
Good night, guys.